One of the most common things that I hear is, we should go on strike. The gig apps are out for blood, and we're always the first casualty in the war for profits. Now, before you go pressing the like or dislike button, I'm not really advocating for a strike. Drivers are fed up. Many of us are struggling to get hours, be paid reasonably, and to pay our bills. What's going on, everybody? I'm Zach Drives Fast for the Rideshare Guy, and in this video, we're going to take a close look at that and see how a strike would benefit us, if at all. Look, as a single parent living in an expensive part of the country, I get it. It hasn't always been easy for me to make ends meet. Oversaturation, crazy gas prices, and insane customer fees all play a role in things getting progressively worse for drivers. I've made it no secret. There's apps that I'm a fan of and some that I'm not a fan of. In fact, I've heard more than once that I should just quit complaining and not drive for those apps. Okay, fair, but here's another way to look at it. If you're married or in a relationship, chances are they do something that irritates the shit out of you. It's like my great aunt used to say, there's things about your uncle that bug the hell out of me, but I'm just as sure there's things about me that bug him. So, while the relationship may not have been perfect, they went on to have 40 very happy years together. To summarize, some people may not agree with my approach, but what you can't deny is the fact that I'm reaching and educating a lot of people. Almost nothing in life is perfect, and this is also true with gig apps. In fact, it's a cat and mouse game. They want the right to not give us an hourly rate or benefits. As a result, we have the right to accept or decline any orders that we see fit. I'm a firm believer that we can coexist in an imperfect space. I want you to tell me in the comments what you would change if you could only change one thing. What one thing would have the biggest impact for you? Matter of fact, pause the video and do it now. Are the apps predatory? Yeah, frequently, but there's no gun to our head either. We're not being forced to do anything that we ourselves didn't agree to. While these companies make it clear as mud what we actually have to do and what we're not really required to do, the responsibility of educating ourselves falls on us. I want to pause here for a moment. Why do you think that DoorDash has an acceptance rate requirement to Dash Now? Because they fall for it. The vast majority of drivers don't take the time to educate themselves on what they should and shouldn't be doing. This is evident to me through my frequent conversations with other drivers while I'm waiting for orders. So many drivers don't realize that the orders that they're accepting are losing them money. Sure, you might have made $4 on an order going 3 miles, but you probably didn't factor in your wear and tear, your gas consumption, and tax. You just took a loss. And of course, these companies aren't going to point that out. That's why it's imperative that we educate ourselves. When I was writing the script for this video, I almost left this part out in fear of sounding conceited, which I promise isn't the intent. But I chose to leave it in because it perfectly illustrates my point. I run my own channel, and it's not the biggest out there. But it's not the smallest either. Although it happens from time to time, it's not particularly common for a driver to come up to me and tell me they watch my videos. And the reason for that is the vast majority of drivers do not consume gig-related content. They do their orders, make their money, and go home without a second thought. Personally, I like to chat up other drivers in my market. Through talking to other drivers, I'll find out that they frequently take horrible orders. And my next question is always if they ever get on DoorDash subreddits or watch YouTube videos on the subject. Almost always, the answer is no. I want you to keep that in mind, but let's jump back to the subject of a strike. Don't get me wrong, I'm not inherently against the idea of a strike, if it had a high probability of actually making a dent. But is that the case in our line of work? No, it's not. The fact of the matter is, most drivers that do this type of work are very limited part-time and do not seek any outside information regarding 1099 work. If every single one of the people who watched this video were to go on strike at the same time, it still wouldn't make a dent. 13 million. That's how many drivers DoorDash has activated since their inception. Matter of fact, if you were to take every subscriber from every gig-related channel and we were all to strike at the same time, I still don't think that would make much of a difference. You know why? Because the vast majority of drivers don't consume content. We're not going to be on the road, therefore there's going to be peak pay, and the drivers who don't know that there's a strike are going to be out there making the money that we otherwise would have. There's not an email list for every active driver. There's not a union protecting us. We're just an army of one. Even if every gig-related channel out there were to get together and agree to do this, we'd be lucky to reach maybe 2% of the drivers out there. And that right there is why I believe that it falls on us to educate ourselves as well as the other drivers that we come into contact with. Now, some of you might think that educating other drivers could possibly negatively impact your bottom line, so why would you help them? First of all, that's a valid argument, but I'd like you to think long term. What if companies like Uber Eats and DoorDash knew that most drivers were unlikely to accept an order that paid less than $6 ever? What if drivers stopped taking no-tip orders? Their business model is completely dependent on us, but yet we still let them walk all over us. Regardless of my personal feelings on the matter, our independent contractor classification prevents us from unionizing. These companies are not going to educate new drivers, and the government makes incorrect assumptions on what drivers actually want. In my eyes, we can make an impact driver by driver. While you're waiting around for an order, strike up conversations with other drivers that are waiting. Teach them what you know. You never know. Because of you, that driver might start declining bad orders that then get bonused, and you accept them for the higher pay later. Furthermore, hopefully, they would continue to spread the word. I avoid talking about politics like the plague. I'm not keen on the idea of pissing off half the people that watch me, but there comes a point where it doesn't matter what side of the fence you're on, but rather, trying to protect our right to transparency and a reasonable income is what's important. Earlier in the video, I said that the government doesn't really know what drivers want. Maybe it's time we told them. Contact your representatives and tell them about our working conditions, how bad the pay is, and the lack of transparency. Regardless how you feel about politicians, they were elected to serve us, and that's exactly what they should be doing. I would caution you though, when reaching out to your representatives, make sure you emphasize to them that you do not want to be an employee, unless for some reason that is what you want. To these companies, we're just a number. To lawmakers, we're their meal ticket. To wrap up this video, if I thought that content creators could reach enough drivers to actually make a dent, then sure, I probably would advocate for a strike, but that's just not the reality. The numbers aren't on our side. We need to approach this in a different way. Get to know the other drivers in your market. Contact your representatives about what's really important. Now, I don't see drivers and the companies ever having a good working relationship. However, with some basic common sense legislation and more educated drivers, we could coexist in a slightly less imperfect system. Educate yourself and anybody who will listen. After all, the more educated drivers there are, the fewer drivers are quitting, and that revolving door slows down just a little bit more. In my opinion, this is how we create lasting change. Something that I love about the YouTube gig community is you guys will always tell me if you agree or disagree with me. So, let me know in the comments. If you haven't done so yet, please do consider pressing the like button and subscribing to the Rideshare Guy. You can catch my videos here every Tuesday. If this video resonated with you, check out this video next. My name is Zach. Take care.